Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been such a great experience um, since 2022 when, uh, you and I had started off with Bob Diamond. And, my feeling on that, there were so many different courses and people out there, and having a background in real estate and banking and in business, and kind of always wanted to deal with professionals, figured, okay, do I want to learn from an individual or do I want to learn from an attorney? So I went with the Bob Diamond course, and then from there, the challenges that presented. And then one day I was searching YouTube, and came across the video with you and Arnell.
All right.
And I had watched that video a couple of times and just said, a lot of this stuff makes sense. And I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I definitely need to get better at it. And but it was the message you were giving, and really, the vibe you get when you watch something. So the vibe that I had gotten from you and Arnell was, the type of people I wanted to do business with. And took your course. It was, very well done, very detailed. I still visit it from time to time. Um, and then at that particular point, I'd have to say, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of share on this video was, I think doing the course, giving a couple of deals a try, and then joining your mastermind definitely was an accelerator, just because that gives you the opportunity to see what other challenges, struggles, and there were so many key things that I took away from that mastermind.
Yeah.
But for people that are on the fence about the course, I remember trying to find how to get around a probate issue that we had. And I just spent so much time searching through the YouTube videos that you had. And then one day I found it. And then I went, now, how many hours did I spend looking for that? And just said, and your course, the price of it and what the ROI is, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Just
Yeah.
like your gold program. I think if I had to do it all over again, hands down, I would get involved with the gold program.
Yeah. Yeah. How have your, I know you've been working on a few deals the last several months. How have those been going so far?
Very good. Right now I've got things where so far this year we've closed one deal a month, and we're
Nice.
on track for probably 12 or 15 by the end of the year, which is what I had not experienced in the past. Last year, I got Bob Diamond's course in 2018, didn't do anything with it. Spent a lot of time just, wanting to make sure everything was buttoned and tight and so forth. I was still working in corporate America. Um, 2019 August, when I got married, I started playing around with it, but still, you know, wasn't doing what I needed to be doing, and things were slow. And then COVID came, and I think we did four deals our first year. Um, and it was interesting because in those days, letters seemed to get responses. And letters and cards, which I use now, I don't get the direct responses. I get actually more responses from the cards that I'm sending.
Oh,
And yeah, I took your advice and moved over to sales pipe. Um, and that's been a really, excuse me, interesting journey. It took me about 90 to 120 days to get proficient with it.
yeah.
So, one of the things that I reached out to you about, because as one of your students and practitioners, wanted to encourage people, like I said, if I was new. Now I'm going to ask you this question, so anybody that does hear this recording, on the gold program, you still have that option when it's available, because I know it's a limited situation,
Yeah.
that they get a portion of what they pay for the gold program back, correct?
That's how the offer was originally structured. Yeah. And
Is it still that way, or that's no longer?
I mean, it's not open right now, and I haven't had anybody I mean, I haven't opened it since January of this year. So we're going on almost, well, next month will be 6 months since the last person joined.
Hmm.
And I don't know. We'll see if I open it again next month. I don't know
Okay.
yet.
Well, I just, like I said, hindsight is 2020, and there's there's still a lot that I really am trying to figure out. I think the three levels deep is definitely, great advice. Um, I really, going back to sales pipe, love the technology and all the things that we were doing manually. But at the end of the day, then there's still 2 or 3 days a week that I try to get in at least 3 hours of calling to follow up on those activities. Um, and that's kind of been a formula. So it's taken my call time from 20 hours a week, or 15, depending how consistent I was, down to about 7 or 10, because the rest of the system is doing it. And at the end of the day, you know, reaching out to people excessively, is not something I've ever been a fan of, but at the same time, consistently, which you've been a great teacher of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I still don't have the formula other than I use the shotgun approach. So, I'm not using the automated letters that come out of the system. I'm actually just after a conversation with Arnell on Saturday, going back to some best practices, going to do the handwritten letter in some cases, but I'm kind of doing a volume approach now with how I'm doing, but then trying to manage that so it's still a custom approach. So,
Yeah.
the beginning of the week messages and items are going out, emails are going out. After I talk to somebody, I always try to send them a thank you card. And I think that, is a big plus, and they remember it. And then there are certain things that I love about Sales Pipe, that you have the ability to, send a card and a gift for, $15. I was spending $15 on priority mail and they got it. There was a signature there, but I think people like chocolate covered almonds better than they like priority mail. So I think it's your message and how to deliver it.
For sure. And so you're using their automated feature to send out those cards and those
I
gifts?
am. I am. As a matter of fact, I'm just doing my second campaign now. I try to take the first day of the week, first 2 days of the week for loading data.
Yeah.
And I came across a great tool. Excuse me, I have a little cold here, so my nose is itchy. Um, I found Property Onion, a little different than Property Radar. And the thing that SalesPipe doesn't have, and I'm actually thinking about coming out with a training course, because as you can see on this video, I've got gray hair, so I'm in that category. Um, but I'm also pretty good with technology. I know how to use, Salesforce. I know how to use HubSpot. I know how to use Bell's Link, and I still use Bell's Link in uh, in unison with SalesPipe, because there's certain things that Bell's Link can do that SalesPipe can't.
Yeah.
Um, running the reports is instantaneous. Um, but I found Property Radar to have personalized calls as opposed to needing to deal with chat. And at my age, I just hate chat. It's just one of those things. I'm like, please give me a $200 a year subscription just so I can talk to somebody. And they don't have it.
Mm.
So I thought to myself, okay, all of the things that I needed to do, all of the nuances. So I'm probably going to come back to you on your Facebook group page and be promoting your course, and also wanting to do a paid training. So it doesn't take you 120 days to get up to sales pipe, because there's definitely there are more pros than there are cons with it.
Yeah. There's a lot of
And
features for sure. And I don't use all the features. There's
yeah, no, I love the feature that allows you to draw that box.
yeah.
And then basically, I mean, when I saw that, it was like, oh, I definitely think sending the cards out to the neighbors, and one of the things that you taught, that for if you go and you check out my website, um, our business, we refer to it as a beneficiary and heir advocacy group.
Mhm.
So for anybody out there, whoever's owed a claim is a beneficiary to that claim. But
Yeah.
then in instances of being an heir, that's a different situation. So for us, we don't refer to it as overages, surplus funds, any of that, we try to promote it on a little bit different basis. And our attorney said, yeah, that's exactly correct. So, go ahead and do it. Um, and when we reach out to people, a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not dead. Well, no, we didn't say you were. We said you're a beneficiary. Well, you got to be dead to be a beneficiary. No, 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 you don't have to be dead. And so, sometimes it's a good conversation opener. Um, but no matter how you brand it, and I think you also introduced me to the people that did my website, which Overage Geeks, they were great.
I
They
think that
were
was
great.
I think our now,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All right.
I know he's,
Price was great and service was great. So for anybody out there, um, I definitely would highly suggest using them. And I went from having that standard Bob Diamond landing page and having no website presence to biting the bullet and taking the time and starting off with a standard template. And then I said, this doesn't reflect me and my business at all. So you just have to, put in the time and the effort and kind of make it a reflection. But if I was just starting, I would use a standard template and then kind of take it from there, how you feel you're different, what you have to offer, so forth.
yeah, I agree. I think it's nice to have. I mean, it's a good starting point if you have a templated website, but if you can customize it and make it you, you'll be able to stand out from the crowd, which is a good thing for sure. So,
That's a huge part of what I picked up from taking your course. I want to, I think, you often, when you're doing your videos, you have just a very make sense. You have a great way of how you talk to people. Um, you often reference your background of when you were in the security business, excuse me,
corrections.
corrections officer. I didn't want to say security business. And just how, you realized one day that, you wanted more for your family, you wanted your time. And, the same was for me. I was in corporate America, driving an hour and a half each way. It was okay. There were things that were changing. There was a particular point when I knew, at my age there, it was time to get out and wanted to be self-employed again and be able to work from home and make a difference. And for me, this business, I think, is something that I can do until I'm ready to kick the bucket. But hopefully by then I'll have nice young people working for me, and
Yeah.
they won't have to look at somebody who may not, that they don't relate to. Because I think that situation of the chat is a classic example. I think I have many people that I interact with who are clients. How do you want to be interacted with?
Yeah.
Text, phone, email. Um, and I think this is a good point I'd like to share. I'm all for just texting somebody, but I try to set those parameters because if the relationship is one that it's not both ways and everybody agrees to, how they need to be communicated with, I'm happy to just text a client, but then there are times when we may have to have a phone call. And then I'm happy to go back and forth 3 or 4 times with a text, but then say, let's have a call. Just because otherwise, your only relationship is through that keyboard. And I think this is a very personalized business. At least it is for me, because I'm there to help people. And um, if you go to my website there and you turn it on, I have Rocky music on my website. And to me, it's not that I'm saying I'm the people's champion, but basically I want to go out there for the little guy or the individual that's being, because I consider myself a little guy against the government, not really against the government, but when you're dealing with the government layers that you may have to jump through, and a lot of times they'll tell you things that aren't correct,
Yes.
and that's why it's really important, like you say, use an attorney. I mean, I never did because of my background in banking and real estate and also working for an attorney doing some paralegal work. I I wouldn't attempt this business without it.
Yeah. It makes things a lot easier to deal with and can definitely streamline the process as well
I
as give you
think
a
it all, yeah, I think it also keeps you from making mistakes that, even though they may be earnest mistakes, you don't know the law. You're not licensed to practice law. Not that it requires a license to practice law, but for me, it's just a buffer. And at the end of the day, you know, finding the opportunities, loading the data, screening the data, setting the campaigns up, calling the campaigns, doing the cards. I couldn't even imagine putting on top of that, paperwork. And I have a research assistant, and I used to use a caller, but for right now, I put my time and effort into this software. And actually, if I used a caller now, um, God, it would be less than half the amount of time that I would use that person before. And what I really like about your approach is, in your videos, you're training people, and it's not about trying to make that sale on the first call, because what we do, we're really not selling anything. We're providing a service. So I often try to, when people say, what are you selling? Well, I'm not selling anything. I'd like to return what rightfully and legally belongs to you, and we provide a service for that. So, if you want to consider that a sale, technically, yes, there are funds being exchanged for the services, but that's only if we're able to return what rightfully belongs to them.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that for sure. And yeah, you just gotta, provide that service and that education. And, I see ourselves more as a consultant more than a salesperson, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Well, good stuff, man. It's I know it's been a minute since you've been in the weekly calls, and so it's to hear that you're on track to do a deal a month so far. That's really awesome. It sounds like that because I know when you first came on board, if I remember correctly, your desire was kind of to get that consistency in place,
Hmm.
and it sounds
I'm
like
a,
sounds like you've achieved that, which is awesome.
Yes, I think I'm on my way, but I'm not quite satisfied now. Now we're going from wanting to do a deal a month to, how do we get it to a deal a week? And
Yeah.
like you've always taught people, it's a numbers game, right? So I think my big mistake in the beginning, especially the year that I had took your course, I'd gone back to work for corporate America at the time. Um, I was, you know, spending my yeah, I would get out of work, and because of the travel, I'd spend 2 days a week at a hotel. Um, and then, the cost of the hotel, because with the great price of gas that we have now and had at that time, it was just, cheaper to just stay over, because I would use my time in the morning and then my time in the evening to do the business, and then my weekends. Um, but yes, it really is a situation that I initially at that time that year, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on these 15 or 18 deals, and just with consistency and time, I'm going to get them. And that didn't work out. I think out of the 18, we got 4.
Mm.
And I just needed to broaden my approach. So, my best lessons in life have definitely been my mistakes, and the lessons that cost you money are even better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And time is money. So, I would not consider our operation to be one that is a success model, other than we're growing and we're figuring out through your course and the relationship that we had. And like I said, I only stepped away from the mastermind group since January, to put that time towards getting sales pipe up and running. And probably next month or July, we'll be returning to the group, just because it's a great way to collaborate with individuals that are doing it. And I always did pick up, great stuff that more than paid for the cost of what the mastermind is.
Yeah. Well, that is the goal. I mean, that's the goal is definitely to provide value that definitely exceeds the $100 or whatever it is. Or yeah, $100. So,
No,
um,
thank you. I really have to tell you and the group. Now, the other thing though that I will say is that I don't think it's the best idea to join the mastermind before you finish the class, finish the course,
mm,
and at least touch the water with 1 or 2 deals. I mean, it couldn't hurt. You're there, you're listening, you're learning, but I just think from a standpoint of doing, and as opposed to it just being like, you know, it feels, because that's a frustrating feeling. You're already frustrated enough with the business. And I remember sometimes new people jumping on and saying, I'm dialing, I'm not connecting with people, and I just can't get people to talk to me, and there are just frustrations you just got to work through.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been interesting to see some of the results that have come from that group because not a lot of people join it. I don't know if you remember Julie out in Michigan.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's closed several deals at this point and gotten paid
That's
off.
a tough state. That is, I give Julie a lot of credit. If you're watching this video one day and you see it, kudos to you for putting up with being out in Michigan and all the hoops you got to jump through.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely an
Now
up.
that's another thing that I feel passionately about. I see a lot of people that are okay. I'm gonna pick 5 states.
Yeah,
Man, I work in one state, and from that standpoint, there until I master that state or have a reason or it gets business unfriendly, I can't imagine learning 5 sets of rules, trying to find that. And the best thing is if I come across, because on our website we do say that we do deals across the United States, and we are getting into different areas such as life insurance and pensions, which we still haven't cracked that nut yet. Interestingly enough, we've made our public records request to the particular division, and they completely ignored it. So now we're going to the next step, which is having the attorney send the certified letter and make the request. And
nice.
if they're going to do things that way, then there's and that's a classic scenario, right? Of just how they can not be servicing you how they're supposed to based upon the law. And then what do you do? Do you spend months and months and months trying to knock your head against the wall? Or do you just go and spend a few dollars on an attorney? And luckily, we're in that option that we can spend a few dollars on the attorney to then be able to open up that avenue.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting too. Yeah, hopefully. And that's just another reason to use an attorney. It's, when government agencies are dealing with regular folks like you and me, they tend to blow us off or ignore us, but they
Or
don't.
be rude. Be rude.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I must say the state that I chose is there one of the reasons I chose it was the statute of limitations, and also the fact that people are just really nice. And
Yeah.
that's a really big important thing to deal with. Like you said, you got to like what you do, but at the end of the day, dealing with nasty people versus nice people or semi-nice people makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It really does. Absolutely. Who you work with makes a big difference. Absolutely. Well, awesome, man. Any other tips or advice that you'd give to someone?
Sure. So my tips and advice are do the course, go through the course. Um, when it comes to that acronym, doing what other people don't want to do, take the exercise that you don't want to do. Like if your apprehension is calling, and make 5 calls an hour. Now there's a difference between just dialing numbers, which you can do a lot of, or I think initially, yeah, sure, you can do that. I strongly suggest Bell's Link for $25 a month for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's consistent. Their customer service is great. Um, the reports are instantaneous. They come in. You don't have any of that time, but then you can just call it out. They've got a dialer option. They've got a drop message option. And that was really something that's quite interesting because Sales Pipe didn't have the drop message option. They had an option to do a ringless voicemail, but when you're on an actual call and it goes to voicemail, you can't just drop a message. You
Oh,
have to set it up as a separate step. So it's interesting to see the differences in the technologies.
yeah.
Um, but I would start off with Bell's Link. I would start off with your course. If I was looking to go into business, I would definitely, once I got to like 5 or 6 deals, I would do your gold course. And I did not do it. Let me be very clear on that. I did not, because I was already 2.5 years into the business. But to tell you the truth, if I had to do it all over again with a deal that you were offering, I would have done it in 2022. I would have done it that way. And I just think that, the program in itself, um, especially the offer that you had, was just a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, good stuff, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thank you for being the reason that we've been able to, get into doing this full time, and be able to, have the tools, always be able to, reach out. You return emails very quickly. And on the mastermind group, I'll never forget when I first started and I wanted to just, I forget what it was that I wanted to talk to you about or something. I said, can I set up a call with you? And you said, yeah, it's $500 for 30 minutes. And I know your technique of why you do that. If somebody's willing to pay you $1,000 an hour, why wouldn't you take it? But it's also a great way to, screen, because there's only so many hours in the day and you don't have time to talk to people when you've got a business to run. And that's why the mastermind is so great. For $100, you're getting more than 30 minutes a month. Um, and in that scenario there, I strongly suggest to whoever watches this video that if you're not gaining that mentorship, to have the ability to talk to somebody like Nick, who's a practitioner doing it and doing it successfully, it's just probably one of the best values that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer it too. I mean, I'm open to do the one-on-one calls, but it is
I
not,
would be too at $1,000 an hour.
yeah, it's not the best use of time, but if someone's willing to pay it, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to then turn around and just say, or you could do 4 hours a month for 100, 4 hours minimum. Sometimes, as you know, sometimes they go an hour and a half, sometimes longer. So yeah, you definitely get more than 4 hours of time. So I think it's a better deal.
I definitely do. Thank you. Thank you for making that available. Thank you for, being an additional resource there, and putting out. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is, if you have sales pipe and you're using an automated tool, especially the videos that you've done where you've recorded your calls, when I'm able to talk to somebody on the phone, although I had a phone script before and I did for my caller, I'm just asking them now, hey, Nick, did you get my letter? Did you get my email? And we call it a particular term. We refer to it as a notice of ownership proceeds. And they're like, no, who are you? Buzz off, F off. There's all kinds of different terms, but you're interacting with them. Most people are really nice. So for those who are apprehensive, cold calls, but you know, since I work so much from home, what I try to do is combine my workouts and my calling. And the two things that I was really bad at was push-ups and pull-ups. And
Nice.
so basically I would do 5 pull-ups, and then I'd come over and make some calls. And I come back and go do it, so that number one, I think definitely being in a heightened state, having yourself, your respiration going, not that you should be talking on the phone with heavy breathing. I'm not saying that, but that, you're jazzed, you're ready to go, as opposed to you just ate a big lunch and now you feel like taking a nap.
Yeah, good
So
stuff.
I definitely think that doing whatever your challenges are. I know for me, the three right now, the 3 levels deep challenge and adding new stuff to the equation is probably my biggest challenge, where I can get better at. And I was on a call that Cheryl Ann put on, and she was, very good at, clarifying that, what worked for her. And so that was something there that I said, okay, then, we'll do that. But we're still in the shotgun approach. Like I said, it always amazed me that she just primarily does all of her communicating via text, which we don't just communicate via text to people. Um, on top of that, we're doing the cards, and we're doing, voicemails and so forth. And when I can figure out which one works best, then I can definitely try to focus on it. But for right now, for anybody starting, I would say do them all.
Yeah, more lines in the water, so to speak.
Because you never know. I mean, our largest recovery last December, which was at 133,000, came from somebody after 18 months. And I have a lot of stuff that I've shared with the group, 12, 14, 16. So I'm not saying all the deals have taken that long. I just had one that went through, in 60 days, and another one that went through in 120 days. So I would have to say, for me, on an easygoing situation with no litigation or multiple filings, motions, that 120 to 180 is the time frame. And I can't tell you how many times I have one particular prospect that I've been communicating with for 2 years. They signed up with a company who sounded great up front, promised the moon, excuse me, promised the stars, and didn't even deliver the moon. And the judge dismissed their assignment, and basically let them out of it because they had an individual that didn't even show up for an important court date. She was having nightmares trying to get them to call them back, and just everything that. And the poor woman was just pulling her hair out. But at the end of the day, she still hasn't re-signed up. But I talk to her every 6 weeks. How you doing? Are you ready? And that's all I ask people. Are you ready? And I have this image of a journey of 1,000 miles, and I use that a lot when I send it to people, and I send it in my DocuSign package as the last page, because a lot of times there's just something that's holding them up. I mean, it just amazes me. I had a $36,000 one after 2.5 years as cheap. I had a $55,000 one as cheap. And I have, spoke to the family, spoke to the son, had my attorney write them a letter and send it by priority mail. Those were costing us about $160 a piece. You just can't get people to move until they're ready. So that's another piece of advice I really want to give people out there, is just until they're ready, and sometimes they never will be. Um, just keep them in the pipeline. One of the things I do that I think makes a lot of sense, and this is where I'm not like, okay, I'm gonna make 200 phone calls today, because I have to go into each case and still look to see that the money's there. Because otherwise, why are you making phone calls? It's a waste of time. So I highly suggest checking those dockets before you get to that group. And I have made the mistake of, spending hours calling, then check the docket, and should have done it first, because probably wasted, 3 hours, 2 hours calling. And I think I made that mistake twice in this business, and don't make it anymore.
Yeah, we live and learn.
Yeah,
No,
especially when it costs time.
that's a good point that I mean, it highlights the reality of this business, which is that oftentimes you're not just going to get a hold of someone and have them sign up with you. There really does need to be quite a bit of follow-up involved. And isn't it amazing too how many people just give up and lose out on that money? For those that don't know what the word is cheap means, that means the money gets forfeit and is no longer able to be claimed.
I think Bob Diamond had a great definition for it. It's not the technical definition, but it is like it sounds. They're going to cheat it from you. I always say that they're going to legally confiscate it. Many different ways to put it. But yes, and it's interesting because what the state statute is often is different than what the counties are doing. So, the statute in the state that I work is 3 years. Very commonly it's there for 5 years, but I found deals that have been on the books for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, once again, it's kind of just diving in there, and I could never, I don't have the bandwidth to learn 5 different states. I think that, we really will just focus on mastering one. And once we can do that, then try to replicate that formula. But I also think that one of the beauties of this business is to be able to do it from anywhere. So for myself, and my wife, being able to, we have family that live over in Europe, being able to go there for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, spend time there. But I can also work.
Yep.
Obviously, the time difference is a challenge, but whether you're domestically doing it or wanting to go away. And so I really like that aspect. That's what attracted me most to this business. And then trying to find other ways to possibly, get into, because, if we do have a housing crash, overages will definitely change because
Yeah.
it's based upon overages. And so if housing is reduced by 25 or 50%, that's going to make a big difference to the industry. But I think, one challenge is another opportunity. The wholesale side of things, or being able to do other areas. I definitely think, like anything else, you have to keep that in mind, that you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely got to adapt with the market. Yep.
So those are the things. But I definitely, the other thing that I want to put out there is that there's a lot of feedback that I get from clients, people telling them, I mean, just being extremely aggressive, very rude, um, and one of the things that like if somebody says to us, don't call me anymore, don't text me anymore, don't email me anymore. So I will do specifically what they ask. So if you said don't call, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't email you or text you. You'd have to then say, yeah. Or if they say don't contact me at all, then that's a different story. They've made it clear. But I'll then send them another message that says, I've received your request to not contact you at all. This was in regards to Nick Fulmer that lived at 1234 Main Street in Camden, Utah, or wherever the state the person lives. And then just want to make sure, I said, we will go ahead and respect your request to not contact you, but will the next 25 to 100 people over the next 5 to 15 years, please keep that in mind, and we can help you on getting that to stop. And the only way to get it to stop is claim the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
So I think that's something there. But I just think being nice to people, and you had a video that you put out once, and that you had said, very rarely do I ever get cussed out or scolded. And I've had it maybe half a dozen times in 4 years. I really can't think of more. Um, and you have to just be able to deal with those individuals and then just move on. And there are so many opportunities you can literally just go, nope, never again. Don't think I need to go through that. So, even though it's $100,000, whatever the amount is, $70,000, it's a good opportunity. Just move on. There's more and more of them every day.
Yep.
That's what I love about all the mistakes that you make with one client. And I just recently made a mistake. It was with, sending. I learned the hard way with sales pipe that if you put in characters or brackets or so forth, they duplicated it and had a whole bunch of periods. And this person goes, you're an idiot. You can't even type, And so I responded back that um, came to our attention that we can't use characters. We communicate by email, and we're not an idiot. And we have Grammarly that helps us show that. So, at the end of the day, I've always said I may not be the sharpest pencil in the box, but I'm not the dullest either. And I can definitely, when it comes to getting things done, I think that's our strong point. And working with attorneys and having the real estate background and the lending background, which I did for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And then spending some time doing debt collections as a paralegal for an attorney gave me some insights. And so that's what we kind of bring to the table, but just being nice and just getting it done and following through. I have one probate that's now possibly going on its fourth year. Hopefully not. It's 2 states, 13 claimants. We have one county that's been holding on to the money, which has already been ordered to be released by the judge since last August. My attorney's been tied up in court for the last 2 months and so on, hasn't been able to go down there. But we virtually are at the point that if they don't give it to us when he goes down there, then we're going to interplead the funds back in, even though the judge has already ruled on it, and have to do that. And he's like, we never want to do another deal in this county again. And I said, okay, that's fine. We don't have to do it. But yeah, I never expected this to go on for 4 years, and we still have to sell a property. The good thing is it's a decent amount, not an extremely large one. So it's not like the $900,000 home run. Well, the one that you did, um, it's not going to be 7 figures, but it is a strong 6-figure settlement.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's still a home run. Anything.
it is, and the patience there. I was just talking to the lady today, and she said, thank you so much. And I just simply said, I just try to move the chess pieces on the board forward a little bit every week and just, keep doing it. But the one thing that's giving me the most uh, excitement now is having that technology of being able to, through sales pipe, because there was no way before, without sales pipe and without property onion, that I could come up with 30 vetted leads a week.
Mm,
There's just no way. And, I have my criteria. The other thing that I really like about that is, there are fields that you can set up in sales pipe, things that I would have to put in before: PPN numbers, court docs, links, case numbers, um, all kinds of stuff that just is coming off of the export from Property Onion that it automatically imports. So that's just a huge time savings as well. The only thing that I'm trying to get now, which is the next step, is to be able to have the skip traces along with that information, create the contacts all in one step, because we don't have an API feature on this technology, meaning that it just comes in directly. They're still working on that.
yeah.
Um, Arnell told me about that the other day, and I started jumping out of my seat, but it was a little bit preliminary because they don't have it yet. But it's a journey, and I really like the journey. So thank you, Nick.
You bet. No, thank you. I appreciate you doing this.